5D Mystery School.
There is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone.
I see a whole change in the thrust of searching for answers about who we are and why we're here. And I think it's good. It provides a third way in which to look, at the, if you will, the philosophy of life. I think it's wonderful, and I just hope the movement continues to expand.
Okay, so let's say that you are playing a game called Life. It's a soul game. And a brief synopsis of this game, let's say that, you know how when you play a video game and your character dies in the video game, well, you respawn in the video game. You respawn at the saved location, right? Unless you want to start the game completely over. Well, hypothetically speaking, this is just kind of a soul knowing, right? Let's say when you leave this physical shell, all of your lived experiences, the choices that you made, the karma that you collected, is saved in the cloud. So let's say your soul settings are saved in the cloud. And when you leave this physical shell and you're back into your light body and you're guided back to the astral realm by waves and frequencies, then after you are, living your life in between lives, when you come back into this physical life, if you come back into this physical life, then your settings are applied to your new physical body. The same way as if you would pick up your settings when you're playing a video game. So let's say that you had a phobia in your previous life, or you have something that you didn't finish in a previous life. Well, in your next life, you will get lessons, let's say childhood trauma, in the form of past karma, in the form of lessons that you didn't pick up in your last life. And those lessons carry over into your new life and your soul settings, and you start off at a very young age, specifically between the ages of 1 and 7. And that childhood trauma that you collect, that you experience, is to catapult you into learning those lessons from your past life so that you can clear out your karma. That is one of the reasons why your soul is here, to clear out that karma. And you're going to be given optimal chances and nudges by your spirit guides in order to lead you into that right direction.
I like to do diagrams or analogies because I think people get the concepts better. I know some of you may find me annoying, but that's how I do it. If we look again, look at it like a spoke of a wheel, where the sexual intelligence is the God mind, and coming off of that in every direction, not only on this flat paper, but in every direction, are oversouls. All these are oversouls, and then from that are coming life streams, infinite life streams in every reality, every direction. It's like a big wheel, spoke of a wheel that go out.
Is that what it's called, Christ consciousness?
Well, these are the oversouls, yes? How are they connected to the God mind? With what is considered Christ, called level of Christ consciousness, remember? And that is the central computer unit, the CPU, of all the oversouls. They're all working from the same power pack and memory center.
That's the Christ consciousness?
Yeah, that's really what it is.
It's
not a person.
Is it God?
The
The
same
God
thing.
mind?
It's how God mind interfaces with its various components. Just like as above, so below, think of your own body as if it were a microcosm of God mind, which it is. So your pineal gland is the God mind. The left brain is the physical realities, the right brain is the non-physical realities. But no matter which reality it exists, there is a nervous system that connects to every cell and molecule of your body. That is how the oversoul then connects to the various personalities. It's like a nervous system. In the New Testament, they use the analogy of a grapevine, and how it spreads out, but yet the central vine is the same. Same concept, same kind, just different analogy.
And it's kind of like, we hear of groups that are formed, say, for alcoholics in recovery. There's a certain integrity there that no new patients are added to the group once the group starts. It's that way in the spirit world. We don't have new souls coming in and out all the time. That group stays together. So sometimes it's a real revelation to the people sitting in your chair about just who's in their soul group. And there are other soul groups nearby, affiliated souls, that may play an important part in certain lives. There are reasons for that. We want to explore it. So from there, they typically go in front of a group of wise beings. There's all sorts of names for these beings. Some call them, the elders, or the wisdom makers, or all sorts of wonderful names that they give these wise beings who, in fact, are a step or two above their guides. These are non-incarnating beings, okay? It's about as close to God as we get, incidentally.
Okay, so I started to think about CERN and how our universe, our reality, is composed of numbers, right? And if you know how to decipher those numbers, then you could come up with some type of code. Like the speed of light, certain like ley lines, right? So if you had a quantum computer, then you could take it one step further and try to figure out the code of life, the code to this certain reality. And if you knew the code, then you can try to create an artificial turn dial to turn the knob. And so also think about how they made CERN look, like the entrance of CERN, like the actual Large Hadron Collider. It looks like the Looney Tunes logo. It looks like the Twilight Zone tunnel. And so it's almost as if, now I'm not saying this is what it is, but you know how when you hear about somebody who had a near-death experience and they say, like, don't go into the light. Well, what if the powers to be, the elusive controllers, have figured out how to create an artificial light that your soul could go into that brings you straight back into this reality? Like a soul trap. And one way that you could trap a soul here is by constantly trying to rearrange their code. Because let's say, like, while you're here, your DNA has a code to release your soul when it's time for you to leave this physical body. But if you know how to rework the coding of the DNA, if you know how to biocode, then you can reroute the journey of one's soul. I even believe that they are studying the soul so much that they are trying to recreate souls, how to form light into a light body, how to take photons and form those photons into a light body, therefore recreating a light body and artificially creating their version of an astral realms, but it would be more of a digital astral realms, and it would be more of a digital parallel universe that would be completely ran by by artificial intelligence.
Cross from the death experience into the spirit world, into the afterlife. And it's an interesting and exciting time for the client. because it's at this point they begin to really see their soul. Now, what happens then is a very kind of consistent reporting of either friends or relatives coming to greet them, or their spirit guide, usually both. There's usually what I call an orientation session. It's kind of like a briefing session. I think back, because of my age, to World War II and those bombing missions over Europe from England. You know, you go out and it's like going to Earth and going through this very difficult school that we have down here for one lifetime, and then you get home and you're debriefed. These pilots, when they came back to land at English bases, were debriefed. How did the session go? How did the mission go? Okay? Did you reach the target? Did you accomplish your objectives? I mean, these are the same sorts of questions, you know, we ask. How does your guide receive you? Now, I want to make it clear that when a client sees their personal guide for the first time, their immortal teacher, they're blown out of their minds, because that conscious is never fully asleep. And if it were, we wouldn't be getting answers and responses. They can't believe it. Some of the more religious people may think that they see Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad coming towards them. But they quickly realize, oh, no, that's not who this is. This is my personal teacher. This teacher has been with me since I was created as a soul. So from there we get information. We move from that experience to other interesting aspects of the spirit world. Soul groups, who's in their soul group. People are fascinated to find out who is in this very private sanctuary of souls that can range anywhere from 3 to 25 souls. The average client has about 15. These are all friends, relatives, you know, spouses, dear friends in this life. Some of them are shocked by who's there, and they have been with them since the...
I also want to talk about what Dr. Michael Newton calls hybrid souls. Now, Dr. Newton has had thousands of patients doing these past life regressions, and one thing that he said is that hybrid souls is where these clients describe lives on other planets or other places of existence besides Earth. Now, he said one characteristic of hybrid souls is that when you're a hybrid soul, you find life on Earth to be particularly hard. And these souls usually would end up taking their life early by suicide, because they find that Earth may be too dense, Earth may be too violent, the vibrations, the frequencies might not be what they are used to, especially if you're used to the astral realms, or you come from a higher dimension or some place that doesn't really, well, Earth is ratchet, so some place is just not Earth, because it's challenging here, very challenging. But one thing that he was saying is this is a school, and we all kind of get that feeling. We all have that notion that Earth is one school. And even in the astral realms, he said that the astral realms has, you know, as above, so below. So the astral realms also has an aspect of school. He said there are teachers up there, like you're in classrooms. And so while we're here, I just want to go back to this. I want to place a strong emphasis on dreams. Dreams are my favorite part of this human experience. And one thing about dreams is that I don't truly feel as though we were taught how to dream correctly. Because if we were, then I don't think that we would be facing, you know, like quote unquote overpopulation. Because I think one of the reasons, if we are overpopulated, one of the reasons why we might be overpopulated is because souls are coming here to Earth School and they're not getting the lesson. They're not getting the lesson. If you don't pass the class, you remain in the same grade. So you have a lot of people that are remaining in Earth School because they think that they are here for the preoccupation, like Gucci, Louis, Prada, Mercedes, Lamborghini, versus the evolution of the soul. So going to sleep at night, entering into your daily reviews, your dreams with intention. Treating karma like it's serious, because it is. really being aware when you had interactions with other people, because you realize that your interaction creates karma. Your interactions can lead you down the right path or keep you stagnant on the wrong path.
Where does that come from if everything's existing on Earth?
History is an illusion, or you can't even use the word history because that's all fake.
So
But you can say,
we all agreed on this story?
no, that story was imposed on you by those who control this particular universe or this planet. But I think you mean timeline. You mean 1 year following another year. That's an illusion of physical reality. Time and space is an illusion of physical reality. There's an illusion that it takes me a few seconds and it takes movement to go from this point to that door. In actuality, I just have to think of that door, I'm there. No time or space.
One of the things that clients don't understand when they come is that there is a dual nature to all of us. I mean, some of them have a sense of it, but they don't really understand it until they have the experience themselves. That we have our brain, ego, if you will, we have a soul ego, and when they are combined, it creates one personality and one lifetime.
Now, and talking about the journey of the soul, it's kind of hard to ignore the topic of soul identity. And I'm thinking about this because you'll have some souls at a very young age who will identify as homosexual. And I can't help but to think like these souls are still hanging on to an identity from a past life. Let's say you are a woman and at a young age you like women, or you identify as homosexual, like at a very young age. Then you could have been a man in your last life, you know, and you're still hanging on to that memory. Right?
And a very interesting thing happens that when they're ready to come forward again into the next incarnation, there's an area where there's kind of a life selection and body selection area where they have choices of different kinds of bodies and who they think they could work best with. And of course, their elders and guides have had a hand in the selection of choices, if you will. And then they come forward into the next life. And it's a fascinating process, Rich. I think what's key to all this is that there's such order and discipline upstairs, and it's a very compassionate love relationship. It isn't one that involves the kinds of things that we see on Earth with a hierarchy of beings who lord it over you and engender fear. There is so much forgiveness and understanding. We all make mistakes. Some of us make terrible mistakes. And that's all forgiven once we cross over.
Okay, so in reading Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton, it's one part where he highlights one of his clients where they are describing the astral realms. And it's like soul groups, soul clusters. And the client is saying that one of the signifiers that lets you know what level somebody is on is the color of their soul. This person was saying that some souls will have like a white or reddish tone, a white or yellow tone, a bright yellow tone, a dark yellow tone, a bright yellow tone, a bright blue tone, or like purple being like the highest, right? Like denoting a master. So when you come down to Earth, we have something called auras. Now, I'm starting to believe that the colors, when you leave this physical body, the color of your soul is the same color of your aura while you're here. So your aura would let you know what level that you were at.
You're traveling through another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of imagination. That's the signpost up ahead. Your next stop, the Twilight Zone.
I also want to talk about what Dr. Michael Newton calls hybrid souls. Now, Dr. Newton has had thousands of patients doing these past life regressions. And one thing that he said is that hybrid souls is where these clients describe lives on other planets or other places of existence besides Earth. Now, he said one characteristic of hybrid souls is that when you're a hybrid soul, you find life on Earth to be particularly hard. And these souls usually would end up taking their life early by suicide because they find that Earth may be too dense, Earth may be too violent, the vibrations, the frequencies might not be what they are used to, especially if you're used to the astral realms or you come from a higher dimension or some place that doesn't really, well, Earth is ratchet, so some place is just not Earth because it's challenging here, very challenging. But one thing that he was saying is this is a school, and we all kind of get that feeling. We all have that notion that Earth is one school. And even in the astral realms, he said that the astral realms has, you know, as above, so below. So the astral realms also has an aspect of school. He said there are teachers up there, like you're in classrooms. And so while we're here, I just want to go back to this. I want to place a strong emphasis on dreams. Dreams are my favorite part of this human experience. And one thing about dreams is that I don't truly feel as though we were taught how to dream correctly. Because if we were, then I don't think that we would be facing, you know, like quote unquote overpopulation. Because I think one of the reasons, if we are overpopulated, one of the reasons why we might be overpopulated is because souls are coming here to Earth School and they're not getting the lesson. They're not getting the lesson. If you don't pass the class, you remain in the same grade. So you have a lot of people that are remaining in Earth School because they think that they are here for the preoccupation, like Gucci, Louis, Prada, Mercedes, Lamborghini, versus the evolution of the soul. So going to sleep at night, entering into your daily reviews, your dreams with intention. Treating karma like it's serious, because it is. Really being aware when you have interactions with other people, because you realize that your interaction creates karma. Your interactions can lead you down the right path or keep you stagnant on the wrong path.
Yes, we talked about the reality, but I want you to know about the frequency bandwidths. Think of existence as a radio. And as you turn the dial to a different frequency, there's another station, a completely different one. And you turn just a little bit more, as another station. That's existence. Multiple, infinite realities, each in different frequency. All you have to do is tune into that frequency and you are there. That's how it works. And there is equipment that can do it, and your mind can also do this. I'm going to have to go quickly because they're going to get the hook, and that will be it. So this is why I do my work with the Oversoul, which is your higher self, the higher connection to the God mind. And you can see from this grid there that think of that Oversoul as the liaison or connection to the God mind, yes? And all those lines coming down are different life streams or soul personalities. And they intersect with the horizontal lines. Those are realities where a soul personality intersects with a reality is you, is a lifetime for you. And so all of those points that you see, I only did a few there, those are your alternate selves, your from parallel universes. They're all part of your master intelligence. When the government learned this from the Germans, and they created the mind control, they based the alter personalities on your real alter personalities. That's how they are able to program you to different compartments. And you can see the mirrors reflect each other. They're all reflective. I'm just going to briefly mention there's a group called the Ohalo Council.
Now, and talking about the journey of the soul, it's kind of hard to ignore the topic of soul identity. And I'm thinking about this because you'll have some souls at a very young age who will identify as homosexual. And I can't help but to think like these souls are still hanging on to an identity from a past life. Let's say you are a woman and at a young age you like women, or you identify as homosexual, like at a very young age. Then you could have been a man in your last life, you know, and you're still hanging on to that memory. Right? Okay, so I'll leave you with this. And speaking about this soul train, this symbolic soul train that has something to do with the North Pole, because it's like every chance that the ones that know, every chance that they get to show us part of the game, like from the movie Polar Express, where this young man takes a trip to the North Pole, or like how Santa Claus comes from the North Pole, and you have your Santa Claustrum in your mind, and you know you have your North Pole right here, your crown chakra. It makes me think about how the Aurora Borealis is also in the area, the Arctic region, and how there's an opening at the North Pole, and that's where the Garden of Eden, Hyperborea, Mount Meru, like all of these ancient civilizations has said, okay, this is a location of something sacred. So it makes me think about if our soul train, if the hub of these radio frequencies that are sent out to create our reality is located at the North Pole, where time doesn't exist. And if your soul, okay, I'm just thinking about this, if your soul is here on Earth, let's say this is level 1, and if you pass this level, then maybe you can go to level 2, which would be the other level, which is underneath this earth, because you don't only have this level, you have several levels underneath. It's just like you have several levels above us, as above, so below. You know, like you have different Vedas, the different heavens. You also have the different levels beneath us that you can enter. So it makes me think about if you have this center opening, which is why all compasses point to north. It's like we're due north. It's like that's where our soul is due. And that's the opening at the North Pole could be, it could have something to do with this tunnel that we see when you leave this physical body. The tunnel that you see in the Looney Tunes symbol. The Twilight Zone. So I'm gonna leave you with that for today. Thanks for watching. I love you. Peace.
Yes, here's the global map, but you should know that there are openings at the North Pole and the South Pole. The opening at the North Pole is approximately 1,300 miles wide. The South Pole opening is approximately 900 miles wide, but covered in mostly ice, so not visible. If you look at a picture of the Earth from space, you will see it's not round, but has flattened top and bottom. And that's where the depression starts to go in to the inside of the Earth. I recently saw an old video of Admiral Byrd giving an interview. I believe it was from early 1950s. On television, NBC, and he said that Americans don't know that at the South Pole is a huge undiscovered nation that we have no idea what is there. And that's because he saw it, and it was Schwabenland. It was the German colony in there.
There is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone.
5D Mystery School.